Good morning everyone. Welcome to the second technical session of day 2. Today's technical session is on nutrition during infancy from 0 to 2 years of age. It gives me an immense pleasure to introduce our today's speaker, Dr. Lakshmi Telur. She has completed her MBBS and MD in Community Medicine degree from BLD Sri B.M. Patil Medical College Hospital and Research Center, Vijaypura. Presently, she is working as tutor in the Department of Community Medicine and pursuing her PhD from the same institute. She is a syndicate member in Karnataka State Akkamadevi Women's University, Vijaypura. She has a teaching experience from 2016 till date to the medical students of community medicine in BLD Sri B.M. Patil Medical College Hospital and Research Center, Vijaypura. She has done her dissertation work on prevalence of hypertension and its associated risk factors among police personnel of Vijaypura. She has presented her works in state and national level conferences. She has attended many workshops on research methodologies, statistical analysis, doctor-patient relationship, pediatric HIV/AIDS, and so on. Ma'am has participated in activities under WHO India as follows: Measles Rubella Vaccination Campaign, Polio Supplementary Immunization Activity, Mission Indradhanush in Vijaypura District, Rapid Convenient Immunization Monitoring and Coverage Evaluation Survey in Bagalkot District. Her extracurricular participation and achievements are Me-D Vision, a forum of medical and dental students in which she has organized All India Medical and Dental Students Conference as a national co-convener in Raipur, Chhattisgarh in 2015, in Mysore, Karnataka in 2016 and in Mumbai, Maharashtra in 2017. She was a part of Indian youth delegation to South Korea from 4th to 13th May 2016 under Ministry of Youth Affairs and Sports under Youth Exchange Program. She has received Best NSS Voluntary for Swachh Bharat Summer Internship Campaign during the year 2017 to 18. Madam served as a medical officer in Health Center, Karnataka State Akkamadevi Women's University, Vijaypura from 2015 to 2016. She also served as medical officer in the Department of Health and Family Welfare, Vijaypura from 2015 to 2016. She has delivered several talks on personal hygiene and menstrual hygiene among adolescent girls in different schools of Vijaypura district. I welcome you for this session, ma'am.
Good morning, everyone. Let's begin today's session. Physiology during infancy, that is from 0 to 2 years. The physiology of newborns is fundamentally different than the physiology of older children and adults due to change from intrauterine to extrauterine life. So, the contents of this session are introduction, physiological changes, developmental milestones, physical and cognitive development, and dentition. As the physiology of newborns is constantly evolving and adapting to extrauterine life, it is important to note these changes and ensure proper development at appropriate times. Life example, failure to take its first breath can cause physiological imbalances where brain can't get enough oxygen. And if there is any deficiency to newborn, it requires supplementation. Like for example, if there is deficiency in vitamin K, there can be risk of hemorrhagic, that is blood diseases. Let's see the physiological changes. The mother's placenta helps the baby breathe while it is growing in the womb. Oxygen, carbon dioxide, and nutrients, etc., are passed from placenta to baby's body. At birth, the baby's lungs are filled with fluid. They are not inflated. Baby takes its first breath within about 10 seconds after delivery, which sounds like a gasp as the newborn central nervous system reacts to the sudden change in temperature and environment. Once the baby takes its first breath, number of changes occur in infant's lungs and circulatory system. Increased oxygen in lungs causes decrease in blood flow resistance to the lungs. Blood flow resistance of baby's blood vessels also increases. Fluid is absorbed from respiratory system. Lungs inflate and begin to work on their own, that is inhalation and exhalation takes place. Changes in pulmonary system, that is lungs. During intrauterine life, fetal lungs are filled with amniotic fluid. So, lung development needs to clear this fluid. Infants who are born through vaginal deliveries, so other type of deliveries like cesarean delivery are seen. So here, those infants who are born through vaginal deliveries are squeezed as they pass through vaginal canal, allowing compression of fluid in lungs. Once the baby is out of the uterus, external factors like light, temperature, noise, etc. activates nervous system and prompts the infant to take the first breath. In addition to it, internal factors like chemoreceptors, that is chemicals, also play a role in driving respiration. In newborn, breathing is usually labored, that is, they use accessory muscles, ribs, etc. to overcome the high surface tension. As the fluid leaves the alveoli in lungs, the effort of breathing is reduced. So, this is one of the reasons why newborn got increased respiratory rate, that is 30 to 60 breaths per minute, whereas in normal adults we see it is 12 to 20 breaths per minute. Other reasons are compensation for high metabolic rate and perfusion ventilation differences, and presence of circulatory shunts forces the infant to increase the work of breathing. Cardiovascular system, that is heart, the transformation to neonatal circulation occurs with the first few breaths, which involves two major changes, that is marked increase in systemic resistance, that is in the heart circulation, and marked decrease in pulmonary resistance, that is in the lung. After the delivery, placenta is clamped, which separates the mother and the baby. So now the blood vessels present near the umbilicus of the baby tries to constrict in response to two things, that is increase in systemic vascular resistance due to clamping and increase in oxygen from infant's respiration. Changes in liver. In baby, liver acts as a storage site for sugar and iron. When the baby is born, the liver has various functions. It produces substances that help in blood clotting. It begins to break down the waste products like excess red blood cells. It produces a protein that helps to break down the bilirubin. If the baby's body does not break down this bilirubin properly, it may lead to newborn jaundice or neonatal jaundice. Gastrointestinal tract, that is digestive system. Baby's gastrointestinal system doesn't function fully until after the birth. In late pregnancy, baby produces tarry green or black waste substance which is called as meconium. So it is nothing but the newborn infant's first stools. In some cases, we see that baby passes stools, that is meconium, while they are still present inside the uterus. Urinary system. Baby's kidneys begin to produce urine by 9 to 12 weeks into pregnancy. After birth, the newborn usually urinate within the first 24 hours of life. Kidneys able to maintain body's fluid and electrolyte balance. The blood filtration rate also increases after birth and in first 2 weeks of life. But still, newborns have less ability to remove excess of salt or dilute the urine, which improves over time. Body temperature. A developing baby produces about twice as much as heat as an adult, and a small amount of heat is removed through baby's skin, amniotic fluid, and uterine wall. After delivery, newborn begins to lose heat. So the receptors that are present on baby's skin sends messages to brain telling that baby's body is getting cold. So the baby's body creates heat by burning the fat called as brown fat, which is found only in fetuses and newborns. Thus, we rarely see newborns shivering. Hematological system. As we all know, blood consists of plasma and cells, that is red cells, white cells, and platelets. In utero, blood is produced by liver and then it is picked up by bone marrow after birth. Red blood cells carry hemoglobin, which transports oxygen and iron from lungs to other tissues. There are different types of hemoglobin found, that is fetal hemoglobin and adult hemoglobin, whereas this fetal hemoglobin is the primary hemoglobin produced by fetus transporting oxygen adequately. Around 6 months of age, we see that fetal hemoglobin is replaced with adult hemoglobin, and this fetal hemoglobin disappears quicker than adult hemoglobin, leading to physiological anemia of infancy at 7 to 11 weeks of life. Infants lack vitamin K due to immature hepatocyte function and lack of bacteria that are present in intestines which produce vitamin K. So, vitamin K is used in synthesis of clotting factors and proteins. Those infants who lack this vitamin K have increased risk of any form of hemorrhage. So, supplementation of vitamin K is given to every newborn to protect against this hemorrhagic disease. Immune system. Immune system begins to develop in baby and continues to mature through child's first few years of life. The womb is a relatively sterile environment, but as soon as the baby is born, they are exposed to bacteria and other disease-causing substances. Although newborn infants are more vulnerable to infection, their immune system can respond to infectious organisms. Newborns do carry some antibodies from their mother, which provide protection against the infection. Breastfeeding also helps in improving newborns' immunity. So now let's see the development milestones during infancy. The age at which infants achieve many skills depends on how often they are promoted by parents and carers. Birth to 4 months. We see babies sucking their fist when they are hungry, prefer to look at faces and learn to recognize and smile at familiar faces. They begin to develop many skills like exploring objects by holding and putting them in their mouth. By 4 to 6 months, they start to sit alone with some support, start to hold food, but it is recommended that infants should be first given the breast milk up to 6 months of age. 6 to 12 months, babies pick objects, imitate others, eat solid foods. 12 months to 4 years, we see they feed themselves with the food, recognizes and names the food, etc. So let me highlight some important changes during the milestones. Baby's skull or head. When we see after the birth, it is usually soft in front and back aspect on the upper portion of the head or the skull. So this posterior, that is back portion of the head, which is called as posterior fontanelle, closes by 2 to 3 months of age, whereas anterior fontanelle, which is present in the front portion of the head, closes by 9 to 18 months of age. So by 6th month, baby tries to sit without support and start taking solid foods. 10th month, it tries to walk with support and we see teeth erupting by this point. 12th month, it imitates others, babbles like it says mama, papa, dada, etc. Walks well. 18th month, it shows signs of toilet training, brushes teeth with help. By 24th month, it becomes attuned to gender differences. Now coming to physical and cognitive development. Physical development is rapid. On an average, if we see, newborns weigh between 5 and 10 pounds, which doubles in 6 months and triples in 1 year, and quadrupled by 2 years between 20 to 40 pounds. Average length of newborn is 19.5 inches, which increases to 29.5 inches by 12 months and 34.4 inches by 2 years. Cognitive development. Babies develop language and communication skills. At birth, babies recognize their mother's voice and children try to communicate through gesture. So, coo is the first language spoken by babies, followed by babbling, that is mama, dada, baba, etc. And by 12 months, we see her saying meaning to her first word, and about 18 months, they start combining the words. 2 years, they use 50 to 200 words, whereas up to 1000 words is seen by third year. Coming to dentition aspect, humans got two sets of teeth, that is primary teeth or baby teeth or milk teeth, and secondary teeth, that is adult teeth. A child has got total 20 baby teeth and develop 32 permanent teeth as the age grows. Baby's teeth erupts or comes between 6 months to 2 years, and the first permanent molar teeth erupt between 6 and 7 years. So now we have seen how the physiological changes takes place in different systems along with the milestones and cognitive development during infancy. Thank you.
A very good morning to one and all. Before I begin my topic, I would like to thank Dr. Renuka Madam for giving me this opportunity, and I also thank Ms. Jennifer for the introduction. Coming to the introduction, nutrition may be defined as the science of food and its relationship to health and is concerned primarily with the part played by nutrients in body growth, development and maintenance. Every year, National Nutrition Week is celebrated in the first week of September, that is from 1st of September to 7th of the September. The webinar theme is Nutrition for All Ages during COVID-19 pandemic. The World Health Organization recommends exclusive breastfeeding for the first 6 months, followed by continued breastfeeding with complementary foods for up to 2 years and beyond. Better nutrition is related to improved infant, child and maternal health. It also helps in stronger immune systems, safer pregnancy and childbirth, and also lowers the risk of non-communicable diseases and longevity. Adequate nutrition helps in productivity and can create opportunities to gradually break the cycles of poverty and hunger. Globally, it is estimated that undernutrition is major cause of death among children. In 2019, there were more than 160 million under 5 children. In 2009, there were more than 160 million under 5 children were chronically malnourished. So, nutrition plays very important role in infancy as if the nutrition is not proper during this period, it may lead to malnutrition. Before I go to the next slide, I want to share this picture where we can see the nutrition required by both pregnant as well as lactating mothers. Here we can see the pregnant as well as the lactating mother should consume milk and milk products, oil, ghee, fruits and vegetables, green leafy vegetables, sprouted grains, pulses and cereals. She should take extra calories. During the pregnancy, she needs 350 kilocalories, and during the lactation period, she requires 550 to 600 kilocalories of energy. So, she should consume all these food items. If she consumes these all food items, she will definitely give a healthy child. So, coming to the topic proper, nutrition in infants, that is from the age group of 0 to 6 months. When we think of 0 to 6 months, or one thing will come to our mind, that is breastfeeding. Breastfeeding is the cornerstone of infant and young child survival, nutrition and development. This year, in the month of August, the first week is celebrated as Breastfeeding Week. The theme for Breastfeeding Week for this year is Support Breastfeeding for a Healthier Planet. So, in Charaka Samhita, back to 200 years, there is a documented virtue that breast milk is best for baby as it contains all the nutrients required by the baby in correct proportion for up to 6 months. It is well balanced nutritionally, immunologically and easily digestible. Infant and young child feeding is a set of well-known and common recommendations for appropriate feeding of newborn and children under 2 years of age. there are optimal IYCF practices, which are initial breastfeeding, exclusive breastfeeding and complementary feeding. What is exclusive breastfeeding? It means that the infant receives only breast milk. No other liquids or solids are given, not even water, with the exception of oral rehydration solution or the drops or syrups of vitamins, minerals or medicines prescribed by the doctor. A child may be exclusively breastfed with expressed human milk from his mother, a breast milk donor or from a milk bank. What is predominant breastfeeding? It means that infant's predominant source of nourishment has been breast milk. However, the infant may also have received liquids and other ritual fluids such as water and water-based drinks, fruit juice, etc. What is partial feeding? Partial breastfeeding means giving a baby some breast feeds or some artificial feeds, either milk or cereal or other food. There is one more terminology, that is replacement feeding. It means the process of feeding a child with a diet that provides all the nutrients the child needs. During the first 6 months, this should be with a suitable breast milk substitute like commercial formula or home prepared formula with micronutrient supplements. The replacement feeding is for the one who is not receiving the breastfeeding. Breast milk substitute. It's any food being marketed or otherwise presented as partial or total replacement from breast milk, whether or not suitable for that purpose. So, there is one more terminology called as demand feeding. It means breastfeeding the child whenever it demands and as long as it demands. No restriction on the frequency and duration of breastfeeding. The child is fed till it is contented and satisfied. Demand feeding means the baby should be allowed to breastfeed on demand. It is the child who should decide the frequency and duration of feeding and not the mother. The sudden stoppage of demand feeding or premature termination of feeding often affects growth, development and behavior of the child. Feeding by time once in 2 to 3 hours, that is called as scheduled feeding, only for few minutes and offering only one breast is considered as malpractice. So, whenever mother is giving the breast milk, she should make sure that the child is feeding on one breast completely and later she should shift to the another breast. Then only the child will get its proper nutrition. So, what are the advantages of demand feeding? The breast milk comes in sooner and the baby gains weight faster and it prevents engorgement of breast, and breastfeeding is established more easily on demand feeding. So, we are talking about the breastfeeding, different types of breastfeeding. Let us know the composition of breast milk. Breast milk is an astonishing emulsion that contains about 200 known substances including more than 30 sugars, 10 types of fats with many proteins and minerals. It primarily constitutes, its primary constituents include nutrients, enzymes, immune factors and growth factors and hormones. So, this is the daily energy requirement. This is the daily energy and protein requirement by 0 to 6 months of child. In the second picture, we are seeing the nutritive value of milk, where the human milk, cow's milk, buffalo milk and the nutritive value of cheese are given. Whenever the mother is not able to give her milk, she can think of giving cow's milk, as the energy given by both human and as well as cow milk is almost same, that is 65 kilocalories and 67 kilocalories respectively. But mother must begin breastfeeding, then thinking of giving cow's milk. In case of difficulty in initiating the breastfeeding, mother must always begin breastfeeding before she thinks of giving cow's milk, because cow's milk contains high amount of casein, which makes difficult. In this slide, we are seeing daily energy and protein requirement by the child. The child requires 92 kilocalories of energy with 1.16 grams of proteins per day. In the second picture, we are seeing the nutritive value of milk, various types of milk, like that is human milk, cow milk, buffalo milk and cheese. Mother must begin breastfeeding then thinking of giving cow's milk in case of difficulty in initiating. As the amount of casein in cow's milk is higher and it makes difficult for the child to digest. It also contains more saturated fat than the human milk. The omega 3 fatty acids like the omega 3 arachidonic acid and omega 6 docosahexaenoic acid which are present in human milk helps in brain development. Mother should give the first milk, that is colostrum, which will be there for the first 7 days of life, which contains high amount of carotene, vitamin A and D and antioxidants which helps in growth and development of the child. It also helps in initiating the breastfeeding for the later days of the life. Breastfeeding should be initiated within half an hour birth, whether it is a normal delivery or the C-section delivery. The health faculty, she should make sure that the mother is feeding the child correctly. If the mother is, as the mother is very, the health faculty or the staff nurse or any other medical staff should make sure that mother is giving the child breastfeeding properly, and the child is also she should make sure that child is taking the feeds correctly. There are 4 signs of good attachment of baby on mother's breast. First one is baby's mouth is wide open, lower lip turned outwards, baby's chin touches mother's breast and majority of areola inside baby's mouth. In this picture we can see how the exclusively breastfed child looks and how the mixed feeding the child looks. We can see the healthy child and poorly nourished child, and the mother should make sure that she should not give any of these items for the child for up to 6 months, such as formula feeds, water, honey and any other food preparations prepared at the home. Non-availability of breast milk. When the mother is not able to give the breast milk, or whenever there is non-availability of breast milk, she should think of giving cow's milk or buffalo's milk or donor human milk. Use of milk other than the mother's milk must be avoided as far as possible. In case of non-availability of breast milk, the best alternative is cow's milk. How the dilution of cow's milk should be done with the water. The concentration of the milk should be diluted because it will be difficult for the child for digestion purpose, and also it affects the kidneys. During for the first 15 days, 1 part of milk and 1 part of water in the ratio of 1:1. The mother should prepare. So when the mother is thinking of giving cow's milk, she should make sure that it is diluted, because the concentrated milk will affect the kidneys. For the first 15 days, the dilution of milk and water ratio should be 1:1. Between 2 to 6 weeks, the dilution should be 2:1. Between 1 to 3 months, the dilution of milk and water should be in the ratio of 3:1. And 3 months onwards, whole milk should be given. As this milk is poor in iron, so the child needs iron supplementations from 2 to 8 months of age. So donor milk will save the child from adverse effects of formula milk, and buffalo milk, as it contains a high amount of fat, it is not preferred when compared to the cow's milk. For the baby, mother's milk is complete food available in nature. All nutrients are present in definite proportions. The nature of nutrients is such that they are easily digestible and assimilable. It contains hormones, enzymes and protective antibodies, and it is bacteriologically clean and pure, and it is obtained easily, freely and all 24/7 hours and at suitable temperature, which is highly cost effective. It improves the IQ and also visual acuity of the child due to its presence of fatty acids, and it prevents obesity and postpones the onset of non-communicable diseases, and it protects against respiratory, alimentary diseases and allergies, eczema and asthma. The exercise while the baby is sucking at the breast helps in development of the jaws, and it also gives the child a chubby cheek appearance. Thus it promotes overall growth and development of the baby. To the mother, it is a natural contraceptive method and it prevents cancer breast, and it acts as anti-diabetogenic factor by reducing the requirement of insulin among diabetic mothers. It adds beauty and complexion to the mother. It helps in restoration of original physique. It also helps in quick and early involution of uterus and reduces postpartum bleeding. So, what are the advantages to both mother as well as the baby? It establishes the bonding which is permanent, and psychologically it is very much beneficial to the family and the nation. How it is advantageous? It saves money, it saves time, it conserves energy, and it reduces infant mortality and morbidity. It is a universal truth that breastfeeding is best start of life. It is unique, it is gold standard, it is safe, it is sound, and it is sustainable. It is the foundation for fulfilling the rights of the child. It is species specific and eco-friendly. Therefore, breastfeeding is the best feeding. Mother should avoid bottle feeding as it may cause infections and oral thrush. The formula feeds are very expensive and it needs preparation. So, coming to the nutrition in babies of 6 months to 2 years. So, this is the daily energy and protein requirement of the child between 6 to 12 months of age and 1 to 2 years of age. We all know that breast milk is good enough to meet the nutritional requirements of an infant till 6 months of age. After that, the requirements goes up. So, as a result, it is advisable to start the complementary feeding after 6 months for the proper growth and development of the child. Poor nutrition during this period leads to malnutrition, poor cognitive and social development, reduced school performances and productivity in later years of the life. So, WHO as well as UNICEF has explained the first 1000 days of life as very important days. The first 270 days in uterus and the first 2 years of life after the birth are considered very important as the critical window period of nutritional interventions can be done during this period only, and as the maximal brain growth occurs during this period only, and inadequate feeding can lead to stunting. For appropriate age, appropriate height is not achieved. So, that is stunting, and during the first 2 years of the life maximum brain development occurs, and inadequate intake can lead to stunting and suboptimal development, and this damage is permanent and irreversible. So, there are 7 food groups used for complementary feeding. They are grains, roots and tubers, legumes and nuts, dairy products like milk, yogurt, cheese, flesh foods, eggs, vitamin A rich fruits and vegetables, and other fruits and vegetables. Before we give these food groups, we should make sure that hygienic practices are followed. At least 4 of the above 7 food groups should be included in complementary food for better quality diets along with breastfeeding. To start with complementary feeding, the complementary feeding should consist of liquid foods like ragi and rice malt, fruit juices, vegetable soups, cow's milk, followed by semi-solid food like soft cooked rice, dal, smashed vegetables, soft fruits like banana, soft boiled egg, and later we can start with laddus which are prepared from the flour like ragi flour or the besan. These items are given one at a time. When the child gets used to one, another food item is given. If it does not, it is not forced. By 1 year, the child will be able to eat all food items that adult eats, but we should make sure that breastfeeding is continued. For feeding the child appropriately, thick homogeneous complementary foods made from locally available foods should be introduced, that is family pot feeding. The preparation of the food should be such that it should be thick in consistency, such that it is not spilling from the it should not spill from the spoon when the spoon is tilted. The energy density of foods can be increased by giving malted foods. Malting reduces the viscosity of food, hence the child can eat more. Malting means germinating the whole cereals or pulses, then drying it and then grinding it. The flour of malted foods are mixed with other foods to reduce the viscosity. Such foods are called as amylase rich foods. Parent must identify the staple home food which comprises of cereal pulse mixture in the right proportions. Initially, the parent should start with 1 to 2 spoons and gradually increase to half to 1 cup per day in 2 to 3 servings in addition to the breast milk. So, during 6 to 9 months we should introduce mashed items from the family pot, and the mashed rice with pulses, mashed tubers, vegetables, fruits, biscuits can be given 3 to 4 times a day along with breast milk. During 9 to 12 months we should introduce soft foods. We should avoid hot spices. Chapati and other hard items can be made soft. As I said, by 1 year of age the child should eat all the food items that adult can eat. One thing is the preparations of these foods should be done very hygienically with the safe and clean hands, and clean utensils should be used, and clean water should be used for the preparation of the complementary food. During 1 to 2 years we should introduce mashed roti, bread mixed with thick dal, rice, biscuit, halwa, kheer, khichdi with added ghee or oil. During this period, during 1 to 2 years of the age, a mother should make sure that the child eats with the mother and separate plate is given to the child. In this picture we can see that we should support the child, we should motivate the child for self feeding. We should encourage the child for self feeding even though there is a risk of spillage. Every child should be fed with separate plate to develop the individual identity under the supervision of mother, and the consistency of the food should be such that the child should be taught to munch, to chew and to swallow the food, and we should avoid foods that give that can pose a choking hazard to the child. So, the complementary food, the properties should be there should be a frequent feeding with adequate amounts of food and appropriate consistency like milk. Initially it should be in the milk in consistency, later curd in consistency, like it should be butter in consistency, then cheese, and at the end of the 2 years the food should be of fruit in consistency, and variety of different food should be given. There should be a responsive feeding and it should be hygienically prepared. Minimum meal frequency is the proportion of breastfed and non-breastfed children from 6 to 23 months of age who receive solid, semi-solid or soft foods for the minimum number of times or more. So, what is minimum? It is defined as 2 times per day for the breastfed infants between 6 to 8 months, 3 times per day for breastfed children between 9 to 23 months, 4 times per day for non-breastfed children 6 to 23 months. So, what are the guidelines to prepare feeds? We should avoid tinned and ready to eat food, avoid making separate food preparations for the baby unless routine family food is excessively spicy. We should avoid watery dal, rice water, soups and juices which only have a water but no calories. That means the water content should not be more. Again it leads to the baby suffer from diarrhea. Snacks should be used in between meals or if food is not ready. Some examples are freshly cut and softened fruits. A spoon can be used to scrape the pulp and the fruit should be properly washed before cutting and peeling. We can also give curd with sugar and salt, and 3 parts of rice and 1 part of dal washed, dried and ground to a coarse powder. This can be stored in a tin for 7 to 10 days. When necessary, this powder can be roasted with ghee and can be cooked with water and or milk to make porridge like or kheer. We in our side, in our part of Karnataka, we tell it as a ganji. Cereals, pulses, vegetables and fruits together constitute a balanced diet. Fermented and sprouts food have a better nutritive value and give protection against infections. Some children like sweet dishes, while some may like spicy food. Children should be fed according to their liking. There is a myth that giving the sweet dishes leads to worm infestation. It is not so. The baby should be encouraged according to its likes, and non-vegetarian food can be introduced after 9 months of age. Foods such as biscuits, noodles, wafers, chocolates, aerated cold drinks, cakes, pastries and sauce should be avoided as they contain more amount of maida, and they may leads to obesity in the later year of the life. Animal milk or formula cannot be a part of complementary feeding. It can be used to prepare curd or kheer, or can be given with the rice and other food items. And the children should not be forced to drink animal milk. Again, the mother should be encouraged to give breast milk for up to 2 years. So this is the table. In a nutshell, it is showing all the food items that can be given during different age groups. So coming to the special situation like the present COVID-19 pandemic, breastfeeding during COVID-19 pandemic is particularly for the breastfeeding during COVID-19 is for those mothers who have given birth during this COVID-19 pandemic. Again, the breastfeeding is particularly effective against all infectious diseases. So, mother should be encouraged to give breast milk. As with all confirmed or suspected COVID-19 cases, mother with any symptom who are breastfeeding or practicing skin to skin contact should take precautions before they give breast milk. So, what are the actions for the breastfeeding mothers? Mother should practice respiratory hygiene, including during feeding. If any symptoms are there, she should wear medical mask whenever she is near to the child. She should wash thoroughly her hands with soap or a sanitizer before and after contact with the child, and routinely clean and disinfect the surfaces she touches. If the mother is severely ill with COVID-19 or suffer from other complications that prevent mother from caring for the infant, she should express the milk safely and give to the child. If she is too unwell, then the mother should think of relactation, wet nursing, or she can give donor human milk. Again, this approach will depend on cultural context and acceptability by the mother and service availability also. Counseling and psychosocial support. If you and your infant or young children have suspected or confirmed COVID-19, seek breastfeeding counseling, basic psychosocial support or practical feeding support. The health faculty will definitely give appropriate suggestions. What are the actions for health facilities and their staff? If you are providing maternity and newborn services, again the health facilities should promote breast milk, but not breast milk substitutes, feeding bottles, steels, pacifiers or dummies in any part of the facilities. Again, the health facilities should encourage mother and the infant to remain together to practice skin to skin contact, rooming in and throughout day and night, and especially after the birth to establish breastfeeding. One more special condition is HIV and infant feeding. We should prevent parent to child transmission. Again, the transmission of HIV to the child are more during this period. In India, 61,000 lakh children are living with HIV. Out of 29 million pregnancies every year, an estimated 22,000 occur in HIV infected women. Most HIV positive mothers will not transmit HIV to their infants, provided she is taking proper medications. Transmission of HIV virus from HIV positive mother may occur either during pregnancy, delivery or through breastfeeding. So, the transmission through breastfeeding is more likely if a woman becomes infected with HIV during breastfeeding period. So, what are the transmission rates? So, there is a risk of HIV transmission from mother to child with, even though we are giving antiretroviral drugs. So, there is 30 to 45% of risk of transmission if the mother is not taking any antiretroviral drugs and she is feeding the child. And the risk of HIV transmission is very minimal, that is 1% when she is taking antiretroviral drugs, that is a combination of 3 drugs with artificial feeding, that is replacement feeding. Always we should counsel the mother that exclusive breastfeeding is better than exclusive replacement feeding. During her early pregnancy only we can prevent the parent to child transmission with the proper interventions. Exclusive breastfeeding is recommended as infant feeding choice irrespective of the mother, irrespective of the fact that mother is on antiretroviral treatment early or infant is provided with antiretroviral prophylaxis for 6 weeks. No mixed feeding is to be done in the initial 6 months as it leads to infections. Counseling for HIV infected mothers. It includes provision of general information regarding benefits and risks of different feeding option. We recommend exclusive replacement feeding only if it is affordable, it is feasible, it is acceptable, safe and sustainable. Counseling for HIV infected mothers includes provision of general information regarding benefits and risks of different feeding option. Exclusive breastfeeding must be recommended only if artificial feeding is not affordable, feasible, acceptable, safe and sustainable. When it is accepted by mother, we can give the formula food, that is exclusive replacement feeding. The dangers of mixed feeding should be explained to HIV infected mothers. Advantages of exclusive replacement feeding is there is 0% risk of transmission, that is there is no risk, and exclusive replacement feeding can be given by anyone, that is other than mother also, any guardian can give the exclusive replacement feeding. Mother may face some problems during breastfeeding. They are flat or inverted nipple, breast engorgement, sore or cracked nipples, blocked duct, mastitis and abscesses. And if the mother or the baby is ill, mother should always think of expressing the milk and give the child, either using Paladi or long spoon. So, there are some conditions when breastfeeding is contraindicated. There are such conditions in the child, that is congenital lactose intolerance and galactosemia in mother, and when the mother is on anti-malignant, anti-thyroid and antipsychotic drugs. So, from 0 to 2 years, what all the nutrients required by the child we all know. Now, how to assess the nutrition? The nutrition assessment is done by mainly clinical examination, anthropometry, biochemical evaluation, functional assessment, assessment of dietary intake, vital and health statistics and ecological studies. I just want to show anthropometrical assessment of the nutrition. For appropriate age, appropriate height should be achieved by the child, and it is anthropometric measures can be done by anyone. Okay. The length should be measured by infantometer and the height should be measured by stadiometer. In the first picture it is infantometer and the second picture it is the stadiometer, which is used for measurement of the length and the height. Weight is measured using beam scale and Salter scale. Beam scale is used below 1 year or below 9 months of age group, and Salter scale is used after that is when the child can able to sit. When the child can able to stand, we can use weighing machine, which are used routinely. Mid-arm circumference is measured with the help of Shakir tape. This tape is unique one where the tape has 3 colors on it. It is red, yellow and green. When we are measuring the mid upper arm circumference, if the measurement lies in the green color zone, that is normal, that is considered as normal. If it is lying in the yellow zone, that is considered as moderately malnourished child. When it is there in the red zone, it is considered as the child is suffering from severe acute malnutrition. Head and chest circumference, it is done measured using the normal measuring tape. We should make sure that whenever we are measuring head circumference, the tape should be above eyebrow and above the ear, and chest circumference at the level of nipples it should be done. So, there are some calculations for weight, height and head circumference. At the birth, the average weight should be 3 kg with the average or minimum, that is 50 centimeter of height and 33 to 35 centimeter of head circumference. Again, it increases according to its age. From these calculations, we can make sure that the child is gaining the proper height, the proper weight, and it is taking proper nutrition. So, there is one more important chart that is called as growth chart, which is also called as road to health chart. It is nothing but the graph. It is a visual display of child's growth. It is a visual display of child's growth which is based on WHO child growth reference standards. Again, these charts are separate for boys and girls. It is used for growth monitoring and early detection of malnutrition. In this picture, we can see a separate growth chart for boys and girls. For boys it is blue in color, for girls it is pink in color. So, this one chart is used for one child for from 0 to 5 years of age group. Again, we can see 3 colors in this. Whenever the height and the weight is plotted on this graph, it should lie in the green zone, which shows that the baby is in taking proper nutrition. If it is in yellow color zone, then it is considered as baby may be suffering from malnutrition. Again, if it is there in the red zone, it is proved that the baby is suffering from severe acute malnutrition. There are some common nutritional problems which are of public health importance, which are affecting more children, mainly protein energy malnutrition, anemia, vitamin A and D deficiency and iodine deficiency disorders. Malnutrition is defined as cellular imbalance between supply of nutrients and energy demand. Protein energy malnutrition, it is a group of body depletion disorders which includes kwashiorkor, marasmus and the intermediate states. In this picture, we can see these conditions. Protein energy malnourished children, where in the first picture it is the child is suffering from kwashiorkor, and the second and third picture the child is suffering from marasmus. In this we can see the differences of kwashiorkor and marasmus, how the child appears. In kwashiorkor, there will be a scaly skin, distended abdomen. Even though the baby looks healthy, but it is not healthy because the body is, the abdomen and the legs are filled with the fluid, but not with any, there will be no growth of muscles and the bones also. We can see the distended abdomen because of ascites and swollen ankles because of edema. And the second picture, we can see marasmus, where it is showing there is a skeleton type of look of the child, where there will be loss of subcutaneous fat. So, there will be hair loss, the face looks like old person's face, wrinkled skin, and there will be severe muscle wasting. When we weigh this child, the appropriate weight and appropriate height or the length will not be present, and we can see in the third picture that is the mid upper arm circumference is showing red zone, that is severe acute malnutrition, and there is a pedal edema. So, I am just sharing the photos. When there is iodine deficiency disorder, the child may suffer from goiter in the later years of life, impaired physical growth in the child, hypothyroidism and impaired mental IQ. Vitamin A deficiency, mainly deficiency of vitamin A causes ocular and as well as extraocular manifestations. The ocular manifestations include conjunctival corneal xerosis, corneal scarring, bite-out spots and keratomalacia. The extraocular manifestations include phrenoderma and follicular hyperkeratosis of the skin. The epithelium of the viscera such as bronchus, the pancreatic ducts and the urinary tract, the epithelial lining will not be proper whenever there is vitamin A deficiency. Vitamin D deficiency disorders, we can see bow leg or the knock knee, chest deformity and scoliosis, wide wrist, rickets in the last picture shows rickets in the family. So, vitamin D is rich in sunshine and also vitamin D is rich in sunshine. So, baby should be exposed to sunlight. These are the other deformities like kyphosis. Let us look on national programs. Today, nutrition is one of the cornerstone of socio-economic development, and realize that broad intersectoral and integrated approach of sectors of development is needed to tackle today's nutritional problems. India, being a poor country, is plagued with number of nutritional problems. To tackle this, Government of India has initiated several programs in nutrition on a national scale to control, prevent major nutritional problems. Some of the national nutritional programs are National Prophylaxis Program against nutritional blindness due to vitamin A deficiency, National Nutritional Anemia Prophylaxis Program, National Iodine Deficiency Disorder Control Program, Special Nutrition Program, Balwadi Nutrition Program, Applied Nutrition Program, ICDS, Midday Meal Program and Midday Meal Scheme. So, one such important program is ICDS, that is Integrated Child Development Service Program. It is initiated by Government of India. Earlierly, it was under the Ministry of Social and Women's Welfare. Now, it is called as Ministry of Women and Child Development. So, these are the services given by ICDS. They are supplementary nutrition, immunization, referral services, health checkup, non-formal education and nutrition and health education. So, what is the nutrition which is given by ICDS? Below 3 years of age group, they give 300 kilocalories of food containing 300 kilocalories and 8 to 10 grams of protein. Whenever there is severe acute malnutrition, the Anganwadi, ICDS is nothing but Anganwadi. The Anganwadi teacher will give double the food of like if she is giving 300 kilocalories and 8 to 10 grams, it will be doubled, that is 600 kilocalories and 60 to 20 grams of proteins are given to the child. For 0 to 3 years, the child will not be coming to the Anganwadi, so there will be take home food where the food preparations will be given like milk powder, the khichdi mix, and again it varies from different places to different places. There is a MA program, that is Mother's Absolute Attention. Mother's Absolute Attention is a nationwide program for promoting breastfeeding, which was launched by Honorable Union Minister of Health and Family Welfare in 2016. The goal of MA program is to revitalize effort towards promotion, protection and support breastfeeding by health systems. Again, there is one act, that is Infant Milk Substitute Act 2003. The Infant Milk Substitute Feeding Bottles and Infant Foods Act in 92, it came into force in 1993, which was strengthened in June 2003 and it came into operation in 2004. Infant milk substitute means infant milk substitute means food for consumption of the children up to 6 months, replacing mother's milk partially or totally. To name few, Amul Spray, Lactogen, Lactodex Extra, which are marketed. Infant food means food for consumption of the children after the age of 6 months to 2 years. To name few, Cerelac, Nestum, Farex, etc. So, this act prohibits advertising to public about commercial baby foods It also prohibits free samples to mothers, promotion in hospitals, gifts or samples to health workers, financial inducement to any person to promote the sales of such foods, commission on sales to employees, and payment of any kind to a health worker working for the sales of such foods. We can also see some of the baby friendly hospital initiatives which was launched both by UNICEF as well as WHO in 1992 as a part of global effort to protect, promote and support breastfeeding. In India, for about 27 million children who are born each year, about 1.9 million die before they see their first birthday, and around 2.5 million die before they see their fifth year of birthday. So, it is known that these deaths are attributed to inappropriate breastfeeding practices. So, exclusive breastfeeding and continued breastfeeding for 2 years should be considered, and it reduces high percentage of infant deaths. So, only there are 10 steps to successful breastfeeding where the baby friendly hospital initiatives have taken, where they have a written breastfeeding policy that is routinely communicated to all healthcare staff, and they train all healthcare staff with skills necessary to implement this policy, inform all pregnant women about the benefits and management of breastfeeding, show mother how to breastfeed and how to maintain lactation even if they should be separated from their infants, help mothers initiate breastfeeding within half an hour, give newborn infants no food or drink other than breast milk unless it is medically indicated, practice rooming in, give no artificial teats or pacifiers to breastfeeding infants, encourage breastfeeding on demand, foster the establishment of breastfeeding support groups and refer mothers to them on discharge from the hospital or clinic. All these 10 initiatives are mainly to encourage mother breastfeed. Breastfeeding Promotion Network of India is a registered independent non-profit national organization located at Delhi. It works in close liaison with International Baby Food Action Network and World Alliance for Breastfeeding Action, that is WABA. It has been working towards protecting, promoting and supporting breastfeeding and appropriate complementary feeding. It believes that breastfeeding is the right of all mothers and children. It works through advocacy, social mobilization, information sharing, education, research, training and monitoring the company compliance with the IMS Act. It does not accept funds or sponsorship of any kind from the companies producing infant milk substitutes, feeding bottles and related equipments of infants' food. The goal of Breastfeeding Promotion Network of India is to empower all lactation women to practice exclusive breastfeeding for first 6 months of life with continued breastfeeding up to 2 years. There is one mobile app called as Stanpan Suraksha app. It has been developed by Breastfeeding Promotion Network of India to promote breastfeeding and to keep an eye on inappropriate promotion of baby food items. Any person who will come to know that anybody is promoting the baby foods or infant milk substitutes, they can give a complaint in this app, and necessary actions will be taken by BPNI, that is Breastfeeding Promotion Network of India. National Health Policy 2017, it's the goal of National Health Policy 2017 is to attain highest possible level of good health and well-being through preventive, promotive healthcare orientation in all developmental policies and universal access to good quality healthcare services without anyone having to face financial hardship as a consequence. Mainly the National Health Policy tells health for all at all places. So, one of the 7 priority areas, one priority includes balanced and healthy diets mainly at Anganwadi centers, that is nothing but ICDS, and also in schools, and it will be measured by the reduction of malnutrition and improved food safety. Coming to the National Nutrition Policy, which was adopted by Government of India in 1993 to overcome malnutrition. The short term or the direct strategies are expansion of ICDS network all over the India, extension of supplementary nutrition for expectant mothers from pregnancy till 1 year after the birth, extend and intensify vitamin A prophylaxis, fortification of salt with iron and folic acid and sale of iodized salt all over the India. Coming to the National Nutrition Mission, that is Poshan Abhiyan. It is a flagship program of Ministry of Women and Child Development. It works as governing body to strongly monitor all nutrition related programs and schemes. The expected impact is reduction in the level of stunting, undernutrition, anemia and low birth. National Nutrition Strategy Vision 2022 tells to achieve Kuposhan Mukt Bharat, that is malnourishment free India. The targets are there should be reduction of stunting from 34.8% to 25%, that is reduction of 2% every year. Again it is same in the undernutrition, and there should be reduction of anemia 3% every year, and low birth weight should be reduced 2% per year. So, coming to the sustainable development goals. So, the sustainable development is the development that meets the need of present without compromising the ability of future generations to meet their own needs. United Nations Sustainable Development Summit, that is Transforming Our World, the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development, was accepted by 193 member states of the United Nations. We all know that sustainable development goals are there from the year 2015 to 2030. Previously, from 2000 to 2015, there were Millennium Development Goals. So, there were 8 Millennium Development Goals with 18 targets. In Sustainable Development Goals, there are 17 goals and 169 targets. Sustainable Development Goals emphasizes more on economic growth, social inclusion and environmental sustainability, and these goals are people centered and planet sensitive, and they are applicable to all the countries, not only the developing countries like Millennium Development Goals. There are 5 aspects of development in Sustainable Development Goals. They are people, planet, prosperity, peace and partnership. So, what are the goals which are related to maternal and child health? Goal 2 of Sustainable Development Goals is end hunger, achieve food security and improve nutrition and promote sustainable agriculture. Goal 3 is ensure healthy lives and promote well-being for all at all ages. Goal 5 is achieve gender equality and empower all women and girls. Promoting health and promoting sustainable development is the main motto of Sustainable Development Goals. Promoting health for all and at all places, universal coverage of health, which includes both the village as well as the urban areas. With this, I wish to end my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Josephine, for briefly explaining us the physiology during infancy, and thank you, Dr. Lakshmi Tellur, for your talk covering the practice of exclusive breastfeeding, problems and contraindications during breastfeeding, complementary feeding of infants, nutritional assessment during infancy, which is very different from adults. Then talking about the national programs related to maternity and infancy, as well as focusing on the sustainable development goals which are related to maternity and child development. It was a very useful and informative session, ma'am. Thank you once again from Karnataka State Akkamadevi Women's University and on my personal behalf. So this ends today's technical session. Thank you, dear participants, for listening to us patiently and being actively participated in this session. Have a great day ahead.